This is the GARIS Masculist-MGTOW flyers, that is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is part 2 of flyer number 366, entitled Masculist-MGTOW Retries E-Dating. Continuing straight on. To start with, second time around, I was very explicit in stating what I wanted in a potential girlfriend. I knew that I was in Melbourne with 5 million people and was in my 70s, so there should be a lot more women looking for a man than vice versa, so I could afford to be pickier than the first time. Since the e-dating site I used earlier, which specialised in people with university degrees, had grown a lot in 2 years since the first attempt, I quickly found this. Within a few weeks, I had been sent by this e-dating company several hundred women, most of whom I immediately eliminated as too little qualified. Despite this, I soon had several dozen women in my personal file. So there's a lesson here, besides the obvious one mentioned above, of living in a large city, to get the numbers. Everyone says about e-dating that it's a numbers game. You just have to filter through hundreds of women to find the odd jewel or near jewel. I deliberately stated clearly that I wanted a woman who was of comparable intelligence, with me having a Prof. Doctor in front of my name. I wanted a woman who was a FIP, that's financially independent person, who would not try to rob me of half my wealth, the way my third, that's first Chinese, wife eventually did, and nurturative and slim. By stating clearly what I wanted, I filtered out those women who were not like that, and given that Melbourne has 5 million people, that filtering still allowed quite a large number of candidates. I also said that I wanted a part-time relationship, meeting once or twice a week, not a full-time marriage. One woman contacted me to complain that I should just get a whore if all I wanted was a sex partner. I sent her back a quick retort saying she had totally missed the mark, given that I'm in my 70s with inevitably a much lower libido compared to much younger men, and was looking for companionship and intellectual stimulation. I also told her good riddance and wiped her. Eventually, I was faced with a new problem, and that is I was left with several quite good candidates. I was finding that some of these women, who were all well qualified with master's degrees or PhDs, were open to masculist ideas, who could accept the masculist arguments, and were nurturative, slim, and FIPs. All the women with whom I started up an emailing conversation were FIPs. That is to be expected of women who have bothered to get higher degrees. That was taken for granted. The fat ones did not contact me, since it would have been a waste of their time, since one look at their photo would have resulted in their immediate rejection by me. So there's another lesson to be learned here, and that is, if the population size allows it, then being rather picky allows you to select a non-negligible number of reasonably suitable women. Then perhaps I got lucky. I'm still not sure just how lucky, because the relationship I now have with a woman I found by e-dating is fairly new, but she has nearly all the qualities I was looking for. So there's a further lesson here, and that is that you may get lucky and find the odd jewel who matches well with your criteria, but to do so you may have to filter out hundreds of candidates. E-dating is truly a numbers game. So I have a new girlfriend who's intellectually stimulating, slim, healthy, definitely FIP, with her own house, and has the same kind of intellectually inquiring and erudite mind to match my own. She's happy to have found a prof who can share her many intellectual interests, and the same for me, except for math and physics, but very few women are into those subjects, so I resigned myself decades ago to not being able to share my main intellectual passions with females. My attitude is that women are just not brain-wired to be interested in such topics. There are a few at my local university whose faculty seminars I attend, but they are very, very few. So for those Masculist/MGTOWs out there reading this or watching this flyer's video, it's possible to find a compatible girlfriend, but it takes work and a lot of filtering. So once you have such a girlfriend, you get the nurturing you desire as a male that hopefully you got from your mother when you were her darling little boy, since women evolved to be great nurturers to their kids. So if they choose to nurture the men in their lives, they can do a very good job of it. Many women today, unfortunately, have been brainwashed by feminism, that is, monoconscious feminism, that is, knowing nothing about masculism and the idea that women oppress men far worse than vice versa, since women oppress men for decades with their financial parasitism, their man-slavery, their fluffy feminist hypocrisy in the divorce courts, their gender crimes against men, e.g. paternity fraud, that's claiming the husband is the father when he's not, getting pregnant against his will, etc. With this second time around, that is, this second attempt at e-dating, I chose to present my masculinist ideas only gradually after a relationship had been established, then gradually release these ideas in dribbles, presenting the most undeniable masculinist ideas first that women could not argue against, for example, the lack of a para, that's paternity rejection right, whereas women have the mara, which is obviously blatantly sexist against men, or the treatment of men in the divorce courts, where one father in 4 gets financially crucified and loses his kids with 90% probability. Women can't argue with these very strong arguments, so they accept them. They become effectively bi-conscious, which makes them much less feminazi bitchy, and hence hugely more approachable by men. So if you're a woman reading/seeing this, then take note. Bi-conscious women who have had both their feminist and their masculinist consciousnesses raised are much more likely to get a boyfriend than a hated, misandrous, male-dumping, feminazi bitch. Such women are the first category of women to be rejected by men. Men don't want relationships with women who are feminazi shrews, so are left rotting on the shelf. Once it's clear to the masculist man that his new girlfriend is bi-conscious, then he can back off from expressing his masculist views to her, because it is not an issue for that couple. Another lesson to be learned here, I think, is that it's important to not live together. Women get lazy when their man is around every day. They get complacent. The sex dwindles. They start nagging and try to control their man. Women evolved that way. Whereas by having weekend-type relationships, as I am now doing, the woman is disciplined in a sense by the man, forced to be nice to him. Otherwise he walks back so easily to his own apartment and looks for another woman on his e-dating site. With such part-time, 2-apartment/house relationships, a greater level of civility is required, which improves the quality of the relationship. It also improves the quality of the sex, since, as they say, quote, separation makes the heart grow fonder. Half of marriages fail. That implies half don't. But many of those non-divorces are rather soulless, sexless marriages. So probably only about 1/10 of marriages are really happy, in my opinion, judging by looking at older couples. Full-time, live-in relationships are doomed to promote emotional and sexual laxity, complacency, so should be avoided. Part-time relationships have a higher level of civility, I think. The only thing that keeps the relationship together is the quality of the relationship. If it goes sour, then the man and the woman simply return to their separate dwellings at zero cost for the man. A man can say to a woman, "Be nice to me or I walk." So can the woman to the man. So a higher level of civility, of politeness, is enforced, causing women to dampen their evolved tendency to nag a man, to extract more resources from him, to feed her and her babies. In the modern world, especially for men and women well past the child-rearing age range, companionship is probably the most sought-after factor in a relationship, with sex coming after. So, bottom line, to the Masculist/MGTOWs reading this, there are women out there who will satisfy your needs, but you have to make an effort to find them by filtering out the many who can't using e-dating sites. The great advantage of such sites is that they can filter out literally millions of candidates, leaving you with a short list of suitable candidates. Try it. It worked for me, in brackets, finally. And for the moment, question mark, exclamation mark. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man-Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 360 plus Masculist flyers for men's studies courses. Freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.